Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas having a ball visiting with Cindy Petiti from Anthony Petiti's Garden Center. And all right, so let's start with the novice again. What are some good plants, easy to grow, hardy things that will make it through these Ohio crazy weather that we have, winter, springs, fall?
Yeah, all over the place.
Yes.
You know, you have a 60-degree day in February and then a 28-degree day in May.
Exactly. It goes 90, it goes negative 50.
Exactly. We're all over the place. But, some good hardy shrubs to choose from is, again, a local independent garden center. They're going to be able to help you choose. But always look at the tag, and you want to make sure that it is Zone 5 hardy. Zone 5 is the zone that we are in. So you don't want to get something that's a Zone 6 plant, because if we have one of those cold winters like we did 2 years ago,
Yep.
it's not going to make it through. Now, you can go with a Zone 4, 3, or 2. They're going to be able to handle it. But a Zone 2 plant will have a hard time living our summers.
Okay.
So we need to really watch that framing that we're working with. But that's the first thing.
So Zone 5
The
can
Zone
stand
5
to the worst of both
of
worlds.
both worlds.
Got it.
The other thing is to know where the plant is supposed to be positioned in your landscape. If you love rhododendrons, but you cannot plant a rhododendron anywhere but the southwest corner of your house, you need to decide, I like another plant.
Okay.
That's not the ideal place for a rhododendron. They can't handle those hot suns that's going to beat across them all day long. They can't handle that type of wind in the wintertime either. So you need to know what goes where. And the other thing is soil conditions. Soil conditions are so important.
Mm-hmm.
You plant a dogwood tree in heavy clay soil and wonder why it dies. Their root system needs a very rich organic matter. That's why in the natural, they grow in the woods where there's been falling leaves for years and years. The soil is very loamy, and they also have an overcap so that they are protected somewhat, and it's going to constantly get more decomposing weeds and decomposing leaves into the soil to keep their soil around their root system rich. So you need to know what plants should go where. If you love roses, but you can only plant on the north side of your house, again,
Find something else you like.
Exactly, because they can't handle the little bit of sun that's going to be on the north side of your house. So when people come into the garden center, one of the first things I ask them when they say, I want to re-landscape the front of my house, and I like such and such, I'll say, well, let's take a step back and find out what direction the front of your house faces.
Right.
Because that's very important. If you face east, actually, your options are a little better because you're not going to have that hot sun of the day, because the afternoon sun is the hottest. So if you have an eastern exposure, your hydrangeas and your azaleas and your rhododendrons and your hollies are going to love it. But your roses and your Weigelia and your Spirea and your barberry and your lilacs, they're going to really like the west side because they love that hot afternoon sun that will keep them from getting powdery mildew when we're having humid, damp days. So, it's really having someone, and with, like we said with social media earlier, you have your personal gardener at your fingertips.
Wow.
Text me something. And I tell people all the time, if you're at another garden center, and I'm just going to throw one out there. You're on the west side of town. You live in Massillon, and you're at Rohr's. And their personnel are so busy, they don't have time. They have a zillion customers. And you say, you text me on our Facebook page and say, should I buy this plant? Because I'm here right now. I live on the other side of the county, and no one's here to answer my question. You know what? Everybody gets busy, and we completely understand it. Go ahead and throw me that question.
You're saying, really? Go ahead. That sounds a little tacky to me, Cindy. I would hate to do that to you.
Well, I would hate you to do that to me, but you know what? You cannot believe the people that come to my store and they open up their trunk and they have a trunk load of plants from a box store, and they'll say, what is this and where should I plant it?
Oh, my.
It happens. But you know what? As long as you're at a local independent store, I'm okay with helping you out because I want to help other local independent businesses as well.
Well, what a heart.
We'll help you because that's what's important, is not that we get all your sales. It's that you are satisfied and you have what you like at your home, but it's also going to do well. It's going to live well for you at your home. That's very important.
You mentioned holly. Let's talk holly. Isn't there something special you have to do because of the way holly, there's certain things you cannot cut away from holly because it needs to be able to thrive.
Okay, well, your hollies, you need to have two, a male and a female.
Right.
Or have the royal family variety, which the royal family, a nurseryman was just brilliant when he came up with the royal family. All it is when a male and a female plant were very small, they potted them together.
So you're all set. You don't have to do anything special.
You don't have to buy two special plants. You have the male and the female all in one.
Holly always was so much work because you had to care for the male and the female and making sure that they were all working together to thrive.
Exactly. So if you can buy the royal family, you don't have to do that. The thing is you want to make sure that you don't prune your male's flowers off before the flowers have time to pollinate the female so you get berries. And so many times that's what happens. People will say, I bought a male and a female, but I don't have any berries. Why? And my first question is when are you pruning your plant?
Right.
Because you need to make sure that you don't prune it right before they're ready to flower so that it can't pollinate your female and not have berries.
That is so nice at Christmas time to have some of those just to go out and pick and be able to put around the house. Love that.
Right. Yeah, trim. I always tell people, trim your female hollies always in the late fall, so that you have them to decorate with around the holidays. Yes. They're beautiful. So and they last very well. And there's a product called Wilt Proof that you can spray on them, and it helps hold in the moisture, and they will last in your house, oh my gosh, till mid-January when you decide to take your decorations down.
That is so awesome. I'm taking copious notes talking here with Cindy Petitti from Anthony Petitti's Gardens. Okay. Carry on. What else do I need to know as I'm just getting going here?
Well, fertilization. So many times, and we talk about this on our show on Saturday morning so often, folks say, well, I don't want to fertilize my shrubs because then they're going to grow too fast and then I'm going to have to do so much pruning. Just like us, we don't always eat so we grow. We eat to keep ourselves healthy. And that's why you feed your shrubs, to keep them healthy so that they can fight off insects and diseases and so that they grow nicely. So always fertilize your shrubs spring and fall.
And what should we use? Because we don't want to use dangerous chemicals.
Exactly. But you need to have a fertilizer that's specific for that plant. So let's say we're going to do our hydrangeas and our rhododendrons and our azaleas and our dogwoods and our hollies. You want to use Hollytone, a great organic fertilizer by Espoma that is specially formulated for those things that like an acidic soil. So Hollytone is your go-to for those. Now, let's say your lilacs and your Weigelia and your Spirea, those things like a neutral pH, and so those ones you're going to use your plant tone on. And then all of your trees, fruit trees or your ornamental trees, and even your shade trees, they still need fertilized to keep them healthy. Tree tone is your go-to for those.
Okay.
And that's going to keep them very healthy.
Do you give help along with if you do have some fruit trees?
Oh, definitely.
And what is the best way? Say you've got a cherry tree, you want to keep the birds out, but you don't want to put anything bad on it, and you definitely want some pies in July.
Exactly, right. Well, we tell folks a couple different things. Again, there are organic insecticides and controls that you can use on your fruit trees. Orchard Spray is a wonderful by the Bonide Company that's going to help you keep the insects and the diseases away. But for the birds, yes, it's a lot of work.
And we have to share. A net?
A net.
Okay.
We have special netting that is huge, enormous pieces. We have some that are 20 by 35. We have 14 by 20 that you can actually net your whole tree, your whole cherry tree, your whole enormous blueberry bush, if you have one of those great big blueberry bushes, that you can net to keep the birds away. We love you, birds, but we don't want to share those kind of things. Right, exactly.
And when is a good time to put that net over that big tree?
Right as your cherries are just starting to form.
Okay.
You don't want to wait till the birds start pecking, because then they already have the taste for them. And they're like, oh, they're going to be aggressive and try to go through the netting then. And then sometimes they'll get caught in the netting.
Ooh.
So you don't want that to happen. But you want to go ahead and net as soon as you see fruit formation.
Okay.
And usually you're going to be safe that way.
Sounds good. Now, I know there's also another kind of tree that it's so hard to find, but it's the transparent apples. And they make absolutely the best cooking. They're the best cooking apple in the world.
We sell yellow transparent apple trees.
You do?
We do. I don't know if I have any left right this late in the season.
These are very hard to find.
Yes. You know what? A lot of nurseries, a lot of greenhouses, a lot of garden centers that do shrubbery along with their other, they don't do fruit trees. Mm-hmm. And they usually will just do a couple apples and maybe a couple pear trees. There's not a lot of markup in fruit trees and berry bushes. Edibles is not where there's big dollar markups.
Sure.
So a lot of garden centers, it's not worth it to them. And it's one more thing you have to learn about.
Oh, well, yeah.
Us being organic, edibles is our big thing. So that's really what we try to do a lot of continuing education on is edibles. So we do have that knowledge, which really helps us.
Well, and I know there's only like 1 week where you can pick them. They come and they go so quickly.
They do exactly
that's
that.
A good week.
That's right. Yes.
While they're there, they are awesome.
Oh, yeah, and they are a fabulous apple. Probably one of the ones that we have a consistent year after year request for is the yellow transparent.
The other thing I would love to touch on with you is GMOs. I mean, I know that there's just so much going on.
Right.
Our food is not the same food that we were eating 50 years ago.
No, definitely not. No, GMO is genetically modified organism, which means a foreign substance is put into a substance of its own. So it's not like cross-pollination. It's not having 2 tomato plants cross-pollinating and making a new tomato plant. Genetically altered is actually taking the genes from one man-made item and putting it into a natural product.
Okay.
So when we have Roundup Ready corn, we're taking the glyphosate from our Roundup and they actually put it into the seed of the corn or of the soybean or the cottonseed, whatever that they're.
Why? Was this to make more food?
It's so that the justification is so that they can spray the crop with Roundup and it won't die, just like, Roundup kills everything.
Right.
And any glyphosate product will. There's other ones out there now, not just Roundup. But it'll kill the weeds all around that plant and that plant won't die. So it's sort of like an immunization. So you were immunized for polio. Mm-hmm. And actually, they give you a little bit of the polio virus so that you build up that immunity and you won't. Well, that's what happens with the genetically altered crops. They are given some of the glyphosate so that they build up an immunity to it. But in turn, we use so much of these products that the weeds are building up an immunity to them too. So really, it's not that great now.
And at the same time, I don't mean to interrupt, but are the people developing an immunity? I'm guessing not.
Oh, well, we're not developing an immunity to it, but what is developing is how the glyphosate breaks down the tissue of the weeds.
Yes.
It's breaking down our tissue.
That's not good.
That is not good. It is not good. And we wonder why we have neurological diseases the way we have.
Oh, my
it's
goodness.
Because of all of the genetically altered crops that we're eating. And genetically altered corn and soy is in practically everything. If you look at the label, it's in there.
You're going to just need to get to Anthony Petitti's Garden Center and talk with Cindy herself. I knew our time would just absolutely fly by. You got to come back.
Okay, I would love to.
This has been so educational. And tune in. Tell us when.
Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. right here on the Light, 95.9 for the Petitti Organic Gardening Show.
Perfect. Cindy Petitti, thank you so much for joining us in our community.